I opened it and found his real family. For 2 years of marriage, I thought I knew my husband completely. Umar was quiet, protective, and sometimes a little too mysterious. But I believed his love was genuine. I believed our home was peaceful. I believed everything was normal. Until I realized there was a door in our house that was never allowed to be touched. It was the guest room door. The rule was simple. Umar repeated it from the very first month of our marriage. Never open that door, no matter what. At first, I laughed. Everyone has quirks, right? Maybe it was messy storage, maybe he was embarrassed, maybe the lock was broken. But then, his behavior started changing. One night, I walked out of the bathroom and found Umar standing in the hallway, staring at the guest room door. His hands were shaking, like he was guarding it, fearing it, or expecting something from behind it. I whispered, "What's in there?" He swallowed hard. "Nothing. Don't ask again." But his eyes said everything he refused to say out loud. There was something. Something he didn't want me to know. And whenever we argued, he ended the fight the same way. "You'll never understand. Stay away from that door." That's when my curiosity turned into suspicion. Why would a normal man be terrified of his own guest room? What was he hiding? Something from his past? Someone? A week later, I heard the first strange sound. He had left for work, and I was making tea when I suddenly heard footsteps coming from the guest room. Soft, slow, dragging footsteps. Like someone was gently pulling their feet across the floor. My blood ran cold. I stood frozen in the hallway. The footsteps stopped, then started again, then completely vanished. The moment Umar came home, he stormed into the house. "Were you near that door?" he snapped. I stared at him, shocked. "How did you—" "I can tell," he interrupted. I said, "Stay away." His voice shook, not with anger, but fear. That's when I knew this wasn't normal. This wasn't a broken lock. This wasn't storage. This was a secret. 3 days later, he left for a business trip. That night, the night I was completely alone, the sounds returned. But this time, they weren't footsteps. This time, it was crying. Soft, heartbreaking crying. A child's cry. Then a scratching sound, like someone running their fingers down the wall. I stared at the door, trembling. But something inside me snapped. I wasn't scared anymore. I was angry. What had he been hiding from me all this time? I walked down the hallway, slowly. The door was cold, ice cold, like someone had just touched it from the inside. My hands shook as I gripped the handle. I took a deep breath, and I opened the door. What I saw inside stopped my breathing completely. The room wasn't a guest room at all. There was a crib in the center, a baby's cradle, tiny blankets, pink pillows. In the corner were women's clothes, neatly folded, and the walls were covered with dozens of small handprints. Little hands, very small, all over the paint. A rocking chair sat by the window, the cushion worn down as if someone had sat there for hours every day, waiting. Then I saw the photo frame inside the crib. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. It was a picture of Umar, another woman, and a baby girl. They looked like a perfect family. And underneath the frame, a silver plate read, "Our first daughter." I felt the ground tilt. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. Umar had a whole life he never told me about. A whole family. A whole child. And then, right behind me, I heard the smallest voice, a whisper, so close it felt like someone was standing inches from my ear. "Mama?" My heart stopped. I turned around instantly and saw her, a little girl, white skin, curly hair, dark, glassy eyes that didn't blink. Human, but not fully. She looked at me with the saddest expression I had ever seen. Then she said softly, "Mama, please don't leave me again." At that moment, all the fear inside me disappeared. Because her eyes were exactly like Umar's. The little girl stood in front of me, so still, so silent, that for a second I forgot how to breathe. Her eyes, those deep, dark, empty eyes, were locked on mine like she had been waiting for this moment for years. "Mama," she whispered again. "No," I whispered to myself. I'm not your—" But the words never finished. Every part of my body froze. Because she moved closer without taking a single step. One blink, she was 2 feet closer, another blink. She was right in front of the crib. She tilted her head, studying my face. My throat tightened. What are you? Her lips trembled as if the question hurt her. I'm your daughter, she said softly, and you left me. A cold shiver exploded through me. I backed up slowly, gripping the wall. This is impossible. I don't have a child. Umar never. But then I remembered the picture. The woman. The baby. The silver plate that said, our first daughter. And Umar's strange rules. His fear. His obsession with this room. My heartbeat hammered in my ears. Was this child real? A spirit? A hallucination? Or something trapped between both worlds? The girl reached toward me with tiny trembling fingers. Mama. I waited. I waited so long. Why did you leave me? Her voice cracked, and for a moment she sounded painfully human, like an abandoned child desperate for love. No, I said, shaking my head, my breath unsteady. I'm not her. I'm not your mother. Her eyes darkened. But you look like her, she whispered. And that's when a terrible realization hit me. The woman in the picture. She did look like me. Not exactly, but enough that in a dim room, through memory, through pain, a child could confuse us. My hands began to shake uncontrollably. Where is your real mother? The question tumbled out before I could stop it. The girl's expression changed instantly. She shrank back, like the air itself had stabbed her. She left me, she whispered. She left us. Her voice dissolved into a faint sob. I swallowed hard. Left you? Why? What happened? The lights flickered. A wind, from nowhere, swept around the room. The handprints on the wall seemed to pulse. This house took her, the girl whispered, her lips trembling, and now it won't let me go. My blood turned to ice. What do you mean the house took her? The girl slowly lifted her hand and pointed, not at the crib, not at the chair, but at the wall. Behind the wallpaper, I heard something. A scratching. A heartbeat? A breath? I couldn't tell. And then her voice dropped to a terrified whisper. She screamed for help, Mama. But you weren't here. My knees nearly gave out. I'm not your mother, I shouted, my voice cracking. The girl flinched for the first time. Silence swallowed the room. But then, in one swift second, her expression hardened. Her dark eyes became colder, emptier, like she had shut off a switch inside her soul. You should have stayed with us, she whispered. And now, you can't leave either. A sudden bang hit the door behind me, hard. I jumped. The lights went out completely. I couldn't see anything except her faint silhouette. Umar brought you here, she continued, voice echoing strangely. He thought you could replace her. But you're different. You can see me. My chest tightened so hard I thought my ribs might crack. Where is Umar? I whispered. The girl's head slowly turned toward me. He's coming, she said. And when he finds out you opened the door, everything will change. At that exact moment, I heard a sound that froze my blood. Keys. In the front door. Metal turning. Umar was home. And he wasn't supposed to be. The girl took one step back into the shadows and whispered, Don't tell him you saw me. He'll hide you too. The front door opened downstairs. Hello? Umar's voice echoed. Calm. Too calm. Are you awake? I was trapped between the dark room and the man who had lied to me for 2 years, and I had no idea which one was more dangerous. Umar's footsteps echoed through the hallway, calm and steady, but something about that calmness felt wrong. Too soft, too controlled, like he was rehearsing the sound of a normal husband coming home. I stood frozen in the dark room, my breathing uneven. The little girl's silhouette had vanished into the shadows, but I could still feel her presence, watching me from somewhere inside this cursed space. I whispered softly into the darkness, Where are you? No answer, just my heart pounding like a drum in my throat. Then Umar's voice came again, closer now. Love? Where are you? His tone was sweet, too sweet. But beneath it, something trembled. A crack in his voice he was trying to hide. I grabbed the doorknob, trying to steady my breath, but the metal was ice cold, colder than before, like the room didn't want to let me go. The little girl's words echoed through my mind. "Don't tell him you saw me. He'll hide you too." Hide me? From what? From him? Or from the thing inside this room? My pulse hammered harder as Umar's footsteps reached the bedroom corner. I forced the guest room door open and stepped into the hallway, shutting it quickly behind me. The strange coldness instantly faded as if the darkness was retreating. Umar appeared from the corner, and the look on his face. He froze when he saw me standing near the forbidden door. His eyes didn't blink. His chest didn't move. He just stared, like he was calculating something. I forced a smile. "You're home early." He didn't respond. He looked at the doorknob, then at me, then at the door again. And something inside him snapped. He stepped closer, slowly, so slowly it made my stomach twist. His voice was soft but sharp as a blade. "Why are you standing here?" My blood went cold. "I just heard a noise. I thought something fell." Please believe it. Please believe it. But his eyes narrowed. "What noise?" I opened my mouth, but before I could answer, something happened that destroyed every lie I could think of. A sound came from behind the guest room door. A tiny, fragile giggle. A child's giggle. Umar froze. His skin turned pale instantly. He looked at the door, then at me. And his eyes filled with panic. "You opened it," he whispered. "Didn't you?" My throat tightened. "No, Umar, You opened it," he shouted, louder this time, grabbing my arm. His fingers dug into my skin. Pain shot up my wrist. "Umar, stop! You're hurting me." He didn't hear me or didn't care. "You weren't supposed to see anything," he whispered, his voice shaking violently. "You weren't supposed to meet her." Her. He knew. He knew she was still in there. My breath caught in my chest. "Who is she, Umar?" But he didn't answer, his face twisted with anger and fear. "Listen to me," he hissed, shaking my shoulders. "You will never, never go inside that room again." I stared at him, voice trembling. "You lied to me. You lied about everything." He stepped back, running a hand through his hair like he was losing his mind. I had no choice. "Who is the girl?" I asked again, trying to hold my voice steady. His breathing grew uneven. "She's my daughter," he finally said. "And she's not supposed to be here?" My skin crawled. "What do you mean, not supposed to be here? What happened to her mother? Why didn't you tell me?" Umar slammed his fist against the wall. I jumped. "Because it's not safe," he shouted. "For you, for anyone, for me." My heart raced. "What do you mean not safe? She's a child." "No," he whispered. "You don't understand. She died. Years ago." My soul felt like it fell out of my body. "Died? Then who?" A small voice drifted from inside the room. "Mama, don't leave me again." Umar's face turned gray. He stepped backward, trembling violently. "She followed me," he whispered. "She never left this house. She wants a mother. Any mother." He looked at me with hollow eyes. "And now she wants you." The lights flickered. The door behind us creaked. Something moved inside the dark, and Umar whispered one last thing, his voice breaking. "If she chooses you, I'll lose you too." I couldn't move. My mind was spinning in a storm of fear, confusion, and disbelief. Umar's words echoed in my ears, but they didn't make sense. His daughter, his child, and yet he said she was dead. The giggle echoed again from the guest room, high-pitched, fragile, haunting. I could feel it crawl into my bones, into my chest, twisting my insides like a knife. The air grew colder. The shadows in the hallway seemed longer, darker, moving just beyond my vision. Umar ran a hand through his hair and sank against the wall. His calm, protective demeanor had shattered. I had never seen him like this. Fear had replaced control, and panic replaced logic. She wants a mother," he whispered, "and it doesn't care who. It chooses. And if she chooses, you can't resist. You can't fight it." I stepped closer, my heart hammering. What do you mean she chooses? It? She? Umar, I don't understand. This is a child. No, he shouted, jumping to his feet. It's not just a child. She's something else. Something bound to this house. She was meant to die, but she stayed, kept alive by the energy in this room, and now she's drawn to you. I froze. I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream. But deep down, I felt it too. A pull toward that door. Something dark, compelling, irresistible. A tiny thread tugging me toward the room I had already opened once. The giggle came again, closer this time, from inside the room. I could swear the shadows were twisting along the walls, reaching toward me, guiding me. My stomach churned, but a part of me, some instinct, told me I had to confront this. Don't go near it, Umar begged, grabbing my shoulders. I won't be able to stop it. She won't let me. She's hungry for a mother. She's lonely, and she doesn't forget. She waits. Always. I shook him off. Fear had become courage, a strange, desperate determination. I'm not leaving her alone, I said. I'm not running from this. Umar's face fell. You don't understand. You can't fight her. You can't. She has power here. Power beyond your comprehension. If she chooses you, everything changes. Forever. I took a deep breath, feeling my hands shake. My fingers grazed the doorknob. Cold, metallic, almost alive. I could hear her whisper, soft, almost seductive. Mama, come to me. It wasn't a child's voice anymore. It was deeper now, echoing, filling the hallway. It wrapped around me, curling like smoke, touching my mind, my chest, my soul. My body froze, but my mind screamed to step forward. Umar grabbed me one last time, holding me back. Don't! If she touches you, she will bind you. You'll never leave. You'll belong to this room. To her, forever. I turned to him, eyes wide, my mind torn between fear and determination. Then tell me how to save her. He shook his head, tears in his eyes. You can't save her. You can only survive her choice. The shadows shifted violently behind the door. I could hear the tiny footsteps, the soft creak of the floorboards, the faint rustle of toys. The energy in the house was alive, pulsing with every beat of my heart. Choose, the voice whispered, more insistent. Choose me, Mama, or leave forever. I felt my knees weaken. My chest burned. The pull was irresistible now. I wanted to flee, but some force held me rooted to the spot. The child, the entity, waited inside, waiting for me to step through, waiting for my decision. Umar stepped aside silently, eyes full of fear and warning. Whatever you do, don't hesitate, he said. One wrong move, and she'll take everything you love. The shadows flickered under the dim light of the hallway. My hand hovered over the doorknob. I could hear her tiny, patient breath. She was alive. She was waiting. And she had already chosen me. My decision was clear. I swallowed my fear, took a deep breath, and turned the knob. The door creaked open. The darkness inside was alive, whispering, waiting, watching, and she was smiling. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside. The shadows seemed to bend toward me, swirling as if alive. The little girl, or whatever she really was, stood at the far end of the room. Her eyes gleamed in the dim light, dark and endless, reflecting a lifetime of loneliness and anger. She smiled at me, and that smile, it was not innocent. It was ancient, patient, knowing. Come closer, Mama, she whispered. The sound crawled along the walls and into my chest. It's time to stay with me. I froze. Every instinct screamed to run, but a strange, almost magnetic pull drew me forward. Every step felt like wading through water, slow and heavy. My hands were shaking, my heart pounding, but I could not stop. Umar followed silently behind me, his face pale, eyes wide with fear. Don't, he whispered. She'll take you if you get too close. She'll bind you here, forever. I ignored him. I had to understand. I had to see the truth. The girl tilted her head. You see me, she said softly. You understand me. You feel what I feel. You're mine now, Mama. You can't leave. I stopped a few feet from her. My breathing was shallow. My mind was screaming, but my body refused to move backward. "I'm not your mother," I said, voice trembling. "I can't." She shook her head. "You don't get to choose. I choose for you, and I've waited, and waited, and waited." Her tiny hands lifted, and the shadows on the wall stretched toward me, wrapping around my arms like cold fingers. Panic surged. I tried to pull away. The shadows tightened. Umar lunged forward, pulling at my arm. "No, you can't resist her. Don't fight." The girl's voice rose, echoing unnaturally. "Mama, you are mine." Suddenly, the room seemed to grow smaller, the shadows moving faster, curling around every corner. The crib rattled violently. Toys flew across the room as if moved by invisible hands. The air smelled of dust and decay. And then, I saw her face. The little girl's expression changed. Her eyes glowed faintly red, and her body shimmered. No longer fully human, no longer just a child. She was something else, something bound to this house for decades, drawing life from the walls, the air, the energy of anyone who dared enter. Umar screamed, his voice cracking. "Don't let her take you. Step back." I tried to resist. My legs felt like lead. My mind was spinning, but I focused on one thing, the diary. The one thing that might hold the secret. My fingers reached into my bag and grabbed it. I opened it and began reading aloud. Words written decades ago by Umar's mother. Instructions, warnings, spells. Something to hold the child entity at bay. The shadows recoiled slightly as I read. The glowing eyes flickered. The little girl shrieked, a sound both human and unearthly. You can't keep me away." But the diary's words wrapped around the room like a shield. The shadows thrashed, the crib stopped rocking, and for a moment, silence fell. Umar and I gasped. I held the diary tighter, my voice trembling as I finished the final lines. The girl's form began to shrink, the glow in her eyes fading. She stared at me one last time, her expression filled with longing and rage. "You cannot stop me forever," she whispered. Then she vanished. The room was still, empty, normal, human. I sank to the floor, my hands shaking, my body trembling. Umar knelt beside me, tears streaming down his face. "You did it," he whispered. "You faced her, and survived." But even as I breathed a shaky sigh of relief, I knew deep down, this was only temporary. The shadows, the child, the house itself, they remembered me. And one day, it would call again. The room was quiet now. The shadows had retreated. The little girl had vanished. But the air still felt heavy, like the house itself was breathing, watching, waiting. I sank to the floor, clutching the diary, trying to steady my trembling hands. Umar knelt beside me, silent for once, his usual calm broken. "You survived," he whispered finally. His voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. "I didn't think anyone could resist her." "I don't understand," I said, my voice barely audible. "She's a child. How is she this powerful? How does she exist?" Umar shook his head, his expression haunted. "She wasn't meant to survive. My mother, she tried to contain her, bound her in this house. She was supposed to die decades ago, but she's clever, patient, persistent, and now she knows someone new has entered her space." A sudden creak echoed from the hallway. My heart leapt. I held the diary like a shield. "Not again," I whispered. Umar grabbed my hand, gripping it tightly. "We have to leave, tonight. Whatever you do, don't look back. She can sense fear, and if she does, she'll follow us." I nodded, but even as I stood, the house seemed to shift. The walls pulsed with shadows. The faint giggle of the girl echoed softly, teasingly, from everywhere and nowhere. We ran, down the hallway, through the living room, past the staircase. Every step felt like we were walking through water, slow, heavy, unnatural. The giggling followed us, growing louder, mocking, filling every corner of the house. Umar's face was pale, eyes wide. "Hold my hand," he whispered. "Don't let go." I did. And as we reached the front door, I felt it, a tug at my mind, at my soul. The house itself was alive, trying to pull me back, trying to claim me. "Open it," the voice whispered in my head. "Come back. Stay, be mine, I screamed. The sound echoed off the walls, defying the quiet night. I wrenched the door open. Fresh air rushed in. Freedom. I bolted outside, Umar right behind me. The night was cold, crisp, and silent. For a moment, I thought we were safe. But then, I saw it. A small shadow crouched in the doorway of the guest room. The faint outline of a little girl, watching, waiting. Her eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight, as if she had followed us just enough to see our escape. She's not gone, Umar whispered, his face white. She's never gone. She waits. And she remembers everyone who enters her domain. I swallowed hard. Fear twisted in my chest, but a new thought struck me. If she could follow, if she could reach us, maybe we could learn from her. Maybe we could find a way to contain her permanently. Umar and I stood in the driveway, the house looming silently behind us, shadows shifting behind every window. The diary was still in my hands. The instructions my grandmother had written decades ago were my only hope. And yet, even with that hope, I could feel her presence. Patient, waiting, calculating. I don't know if I can ever come back here, I whispered. You might not have to, Umar said. But she knows you now, and she'll remember you, always. I glanced back. The shadow of the little girl seemed to bend toward me, almost smiling, almost human, almost innocent. But the air carried her warning. She was not. That night, as we drove away, I kept my eyes on the rearview mirror. The house disappeared in the distance, but her presence lingered. A memory etched into the walls, a warning left in every shadow, a life bound to hers. I realized then that some secrets are never meant to be discovered. Some doors are never meant to be opened. And some children are never meant to die. No matter where I go, I know she waits. Patient, eternal. And one day, she will call again. The following days were tense. Umar and I didn't speak much. Every creak of the house, every shadow at the corner of my eye made my heart race. The little girl, or whatever she really was, had disappeared, but I could feel her presence everywhere. She was patient. She was eternal. And she remembered everything. We stayed with relatives for a few nights, trying to regroup, to plan. The diary was our only guide. My hands shook every time I opened it, reading the old instructions my grandmother had left to contain her. Step by step, spell by spell, we followed them meticulously. The house itself seemed to resist. Every object moved slightly from where we had left it. Doors we had locked were found open. Windows we had shut were ajar. It was as if the walls themselves were breathing, waiting, alive. On the third night, we returned. We had no choice. The diary mentioned that confronting her in her domain was the only way to truly seal her. The guest room door loomed like a black wound in the hallway. My hand shook as I reached for it, Umar's fingers gripping mine tightly. Are you ready? He whispered. I nodded, though my stomach churned with dread. The room was silent. Too silent. Shadows clung to the corners, refusing to leave. I stepped inside. The crib was empty. The rocking chair sat still. The little girl was nowhere to be seen. Then I heard it. A soft giggle. Behind me. I spun around, and there she was. Taller this time, more human, more terrifying. Her eyes glowed faintly red, but her expression, it was almost sad, almost desperate. You came back, she whispered. I knew you would. I steadied my voice. We're here to end this. You can't keep doing this. You're not meant to exist like this. She tilted her head. Not meant? I exist because I survive, because you were curious, because he left me, and now I choose. Umar stepped forward. No, you don't get to choose anymore. This ends tonight. Her gaze fell on him. For a moment, the room pulsed with shadows. The walls seemed to warp. The crib rattled violently. Toys flew across the room. Then the shadows converged on her, and she screamed. A sound that pierced the walls, the ceiling, the floor. We followed the diary's final instructions. A circle drawn, a chant repeated, the old words echoing against the walls. The little girl shrieked, twisted, glowed, and then silence. For a moment, nothing moved. The room was still. The shadows receded. Umar and I stared at each other, trembling. We thought it was over. Then I saw her, not in the crib, not in the shadows, but standing in the doorway, smiling softly. Human this time. No red glow, no malice. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll sleep now. Until the next time." And then she vanished. The house felt lighter, almost normal. The walls no longer seemed alive. The shadows had receded. Umar put his arm around me, and for the first time in days, I allowed myself to breathe. "We did it," he said softly. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Some part of her would always remain in that house, watching, waiting, patient, eternal. As we walked outside, the night was quiet. The wind blew softly, carrying a faint whisper, almost like a giggle. I shivered and looked back at the house. And then I understood. Some doors are never meant to be opened. Some secrets are never meant to be discovered. And some children never truly leave. I turned away, holding Umar's hand tightly. But I knew one day, that house, that room, that little girl, she would call again. And next time, I might not be ready.